Hi, as we talked before, now we are done with the variables part. We're going to learn how to work with strings that are texts in this lecture. So I'm going to save this notebook and I'm going to close it, okay? Because I'm going to create another one in which we will have the strings. Of course, if you want, you may continue with the first variables notebook as well. So let me zoom in a little bit more so you can see it clearly. Now we're going to work with strings. So make sure the code is selected here and let's write our first string. Our first string will be hello world as usual. So I'm writing a string and I'm hitting shift enter after that, and as you can see I'm placing it into two double quotes. And if you place it in the single quotes, it will be okay as well, okay? But I always prefer double quotes actually, because if you try to write something like I'm a pilot, for instance, okay, the second single quote will be closed and the rest of the code won't be interpreted by Python, okay? So if you hit shift enter, it will say invalid syntax because Python doesn't get after the second single quote, okay? What I can do in order to overcome this problem, I can wrap this into double quotes and I can still use the single quote inside a string. So I generally prefer double quotes when working with strings. You may choose whatever you please, okay? So this is a string, and of course we can assign strings to the variables as we did in the previous lecture, okay? Like x is equal to hello world. If I hit x, it will just give me the output of hello world. Can I change the string? Of course. Now I can say x is equal to hello only. And if I hit x again, it will give me the output of hello. And in Python, we can do something that we cannot do in the other programming languages generally. We can say x is now 3, okay? Now x is a number rather than a string. If we did that in Java or another programming language, it should have complained us and said that you cannot convert this into an integer because you define it as a string. But in Python, we can do that. It's a very flexible language. Of course, this may create a problem as well. Think of this case. You initialized a variable as a string, and then you convert it to a number, and then you change it back to a string, and then we're going to learn some other data structures as well, like Boolean and stuff. We can change it to whatever we want. But at a certain point, we may get lost, and we may want to know what kind of a data structure we're dealing with, okay? Then we have a method to know what kind of type of variable that we are dealing with. So let me say x is hello world. Again, now x is string, as you know. If I type x, it will give the output of the type of x variable. By the way, let me show you a length method as well. So if you type len x, it will show you how many characters you have in your string, okay? So let me mark down it. Let me write it down as a note so you can memorize it better. So if you type len x, it will count the characters in a string and give you as an output. And it will just include the spaces as well. As you can see, it has 10 characters, but including space, it has 11 characters. So it gives out 11 as output. So len and type are spatial methods that we can use with strings, and we can use with most of the variables, most of the data structures as well. So maybe you think, is there any other function, special built-in function like that? Yes, there is print function like we seen before. If you type print x, it will just print out the hello world, the current value of the variable x. Okay, so we have len, type, print. Of course, we have other special methods as well. That's what we're going to learn in future, but for right now, let's stick it to strings. Okay, so let me talk about special escape characters. So before we go on and write print, let me mark it down and say escape characters as a note to you. Okay, so what are escape characters? So what if I want to split a string into two? Okay, so let's say I want to write inside a print method hello Python. Okay, but rather than having a single line, I want hello at one line and Python in the down. Okay, so if I write like this and hit shift enter, as you can see, we get an error because we cannot do that. In order to create a new line, there is a special syntax that you should follow. All you have to do is do a backslash, okay, not a forward slash, but a backslash like this, and type n as a new line. Okay, if you type backslash n and hit shift enter, as you can see, it writes hello and Python on separate lines. Now let's put a space and hit shift enter and see what happens. Python will be still on the separate line but with a space. So if I undo it and hit shift enter again, now it is the exact output that I want to get. So are there any other special escape characters? Of course. So if I want to give a tab between hello and world, I will just have to write \t. Okay, as you can see, it just creates a tab space between hello and Python. So at this point, actually you may think that these are just texts. Why are we spending too much time on them? Because we're going to use them when writing ethical hacking tools so much, I want to emphasize the importance of them. In the next lecture, we're going to see some advanced methods of strings as well.